Everyone loves the biryani. But how many of you really have tasted and loved the Yakhni Pulao? It is gaining in popularity, but the reason that the biryani is so popular is because it can be rustled up very quickly. You cook the mutton, cook the rice, layer them in, add the masala, put the saffron, put the kewra water, and it comes out flavorful and beautiful. But the precursor to the biryani and the royal ambrosia is the Yakhni Pulao, which is cooked with a lot of care over a 24-hour period of time, when you have to extract the stock, prepare the meat, really make sure that it's cooked lovingly and the flavors infuse with one another. It requires the 24 hours to cook so that the flavors come out and you really enjoy. But what to do if you really love it and you want to serve it to guests at home who have just come? You have 1 hour to cook it. Is it possible? Is it possible that instead of the bad taste in the mouth which people left with at the Melbourne Boxing Day Ashes Test because it finished in 2 days, does not happen in the case of Yakhni Pulao? Can we rustle up a Yakhni Pulao within 1 hour? I'm Dr. Joydeep Roy, 35 years in the corporate world, turned work-in-progress chef, interested in food and techniques, and I'm going to try to figure out along with you whether it's possible to bring out a Yakhni Pulao very, very quickly. So let's find out and let's start cooking. So the first thing we have to do is to make the stock. So I have the meat here. I do not use a lot of spices, but the spices that I use are significant. Well, I do use a green cardamom, I use black cardamom, I use some cloves, and I use cinnamon. Cinnamon itself is very strong, and therefore it has its own characteristic and whole aroma flavor profile. So to balance all of these, the one that puts it all together and holds it together is the star anise. It is quite magical when you start making a pulao with a star anise because this aroma stays on. Before we make the stock, we need to marinate the mutton. Now, the mutton is raw, so I always put on gloves when handling raw meat. This is always a good practice. Well, if you can manage to sous vide it at 55 to 65 degrees Celsius, you can actually get rid of all the bacteria. So if you don't have it, it's always prudent to put on working gloves when you're handling raw mutton. So to marinate this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of olive oil. And as I put the oil, the measure is about 2 tablespoonfuls for this kind of amount of mutton, which is 6 or 7 pieces, approximately about 300 grams. Then I'll look for 1 piece of chili. Now this is something which can start giving the marinated mutton a little bit of freshness. And then comes the dahi, the curd. The curd puts everything together along with the oil and the chili. And as you notice, I'm not putting any salt here or any other kind of spices, because this entire thing is to be made in such a fashion that the meat itself gives off its flavor. Now that the meat is marinated, I'll keep it for about half an hour, and now I'll start making the stock. Now this is where the 24-hour pulao starts becoming a 1-hour pulao. Because instead of using the same mutton or nallies or the shanks or the bone marrow of the meat, I'm going to use something which is used to make a soup, which is paya, trotters. So the trotters of a goat, these are already cleaned and 1 step boiled by me. You have to just boil it for about 3 or 4 minutes so that the impurities rise to the top, and just set it aside. And these are what I'm going to use to make the stock. Now these are far more flavorful than the normal meat and the bone marrow. They are also very strong and therefore normally used to make a soup. We are pivoting here, and at this point of time we are trying to see what we can do if we try to hasten the entire thing up. I'm putting salt, as they always say, as per measure, as per your taste, roughly about 2 teaspoonfuls. I'll put some crushed black pepper in it, and I'm going to throw in some garlic. Now it's always prudent to smash the garlic. So let's see what we can do with it. You can chop it up. A lot of people love chopped garlic to be put in. But I would rather smash them in and put them in, let them do their job by itself. Now we're almost through. However, this is where the whole black pepper comes in. I'll put some in. Add some water. The water amount is not important. It is whatever you need to finally make the pulao, and for how many people you are making the pulao. The shorters are strong enough to make it larger amounts, but at this point of time I've put in about 1.5 liter of water, or approximately 1.2 to 1.5. Now we start prepping for the pulao itself. One of the most important things to do it is to cut the onion. Now comes the trick of cutting it exactly as per what you need, how you want it to be. I'm going to use a shorter knife for this, not the chef's knife. Now the trick of cutting onion is to always keep your nails in the way of the knife. This is a very, very sharp knife. So I'd always keep it there and always go from myself toward the outer side. And that's the way the cuts are even, proper, clean, and also you avoid cutting your own fingers, as well as you can see where the knife is going. Here, as you see, I'm getting sizes which are roughly, and there you are, evenly sliced onions, and they're ready to go into the pot. And here we are ready to start the pulao, and this is the time to switch it off and keep it warm and hot for the right moment. So we start off by preparing the main bowl. Now I'm using a Dutch oven. You can use any large container which you can cover, but it has to hold heat well and spread evenly. So cast iron is probably the best for doing it. So we start off like everything else with a bit of oil. If you're using a healthy oil and you have stuff which really requires oil to be absorbed, don't be stingy, but don't overdo it naturally. So after the oil has been put in, I will add a little bit of salt in it. It's still not the final amount of salt, that has to be calibrated at the end. Well, in this case, I have two, one now, one a little later. So the one that I'm going to use now is ghee. So like butter, ghee also starts adding flavor and starts getting brown soon. So that's the reason I'm putting it with an olive oil. And now is the time to put in the ingredient which holds everything together, which is the onion. In this case, the onion has to be cooked very hard and at very high temperature for a little while, but just to make sure it doesn't burn. Where do you stop? At which point do you think the onion stops becoming colored? So first of all, you have to cover it and let it stew a little to make it soften. In the meantime, I have kept some rice also which is soaked. So this is rice which I've kept soaked for the purpose of explaining to you. Otherwise, I could have just taken it out. Now, if you notice, it's not water. It is soaked in stock itself. Well, the onion is now asking for something. It wants substance. So the marinated mutton now goes in and starts absorbing the heat and giving off its own flavors. So when you are mixing the mutton along with the onion, one of the things that you have to always stay conscious of. Now remember, this is going to be the pulao. The rice is going to come in here. So if we have all these lovely spices that we talked about inside the pulao, how would it feel when you really eat? They will come and hit your teeth. Well, something to the rescue. This is a very interesting thing which all of us use to put tea and infuse tea into hot water. And you put the tea leaves in here, and the tea connoisseurs of you will know. You put it inside, you dip it a bit, you hang it on the cup, and you watch your hot water turn golden. However, what I have done is I have put all these spices inside one of them. So this is called a bouquet garni. A bouquet garni is when you take all the spices and tie them in with something which is leafy, like a kind of a leaf of a particular spice, and then you put it into the whole cook, and you let it diffuse out. It's difficult to do. It comes apart sometimes. So some people use muslin cloth. But if you have this, a stainless steel thing, what's better than just popping it into the oven? Stock. So let's see how the onion is behaving now. Well, onion is almost cooked. It's asking for a little more oil. In goes more oil now into the hot pan. I'm drizzling about a couple of tablespoonfuls of olive oil. It's getting smoky out here. So let's put on the exhaust. It's going to be noisy, and you're going to hear me through the noise. So we're going to take it here and put it right in the middle of where I am cooking. I think cup. A little more of whisking it around. But at this point of time, I'm going to add something which is going to give the onion a little more life. This is cooking white wine. It's optional, entirely optional. And if you think you're going to eat alcohol, well, have a second thought, because alcohol is going to evaporate like this. What will remain are the remnants of the grape. What this does is it deglazes the pan. The pan starts giving off all the flavors that it had accumulated, and everything starts getting into the mutton. And at this stage, I add whole black pepper. This is definitely going to come into the mouth when you eat, but I assure you it will not be unpleasant. I'm not finished yet with the black pepper, but this is the time I add whole peeled garlic. There's no need to smash or cut or chop them, because the milder flavor that they gave off will be far, far more attractive. Now is the time to slit a couple of chilies and put them in. My fondness for green chili and black pepper is not just because I like to eat it hot, but also because they give it a freshness which otherwise can be quite overwhelming. On goes the cover and the lid. Let us add a new ingredient. So this is something which aficionados of biryani, the south of India or north, will not agree with, but the egg, the humble egg, actually adds a new dimension because the egg also absorbs a lot of flavor. And we'll see how it can be really useful to add a new dimension, because you can't just be having rice and meat in every mouthful. As you can see, the eggs have been boiled already. I let them rest. And someday we'll get around to how to really get the perfect boiled egg. So I'm doing something which people normally would not do with Yakhni Pulao. But what to do? I love eggs and I love mustard oil. I'm going to first pull the eggs into the pan. Roll them around with a soft spoon. So what I'm going to do to introduce color here, first I'll put some black raisins. They give off color. But I'm going to add something which you find probably scandalous. Many people may find scandalous, but I'm adding caster sugar to the pan. This is sugar. Now let's see what happens to the eggs with the sugar. Something which you can do when you're cooking something in 1 hour and get away with it. Well, now is the time to put the stock in it and start cooking with the stock. So I've got a sieve here. You remember the stock which happened with the pie, the trotters? It's ready, it's flavorful. All the flavors of the masala is also coming through. And here it goes. Be careful about the steam. There's a good chance of you getting singed at this point of time. Getting ready to accept what? What do you think it's going to accept now? So now is the time to put in some more black pepper. You can never put enough black pepper. What goes in now is a little bit of walnuts. Walnuts also give off color, by the way. Some more black raisins here. These are all just to add some bit of variety to the dish. And now is the time to put in the soaked rice. Give it a bit of a stir. Make sure there's nothing underneath, nothing is sticking. The onion seems to have disappeared completely, totally cooked. The soaked rice, which has been soaked for about 30 minutes in the same stock, goes in. Totally submerged in the stock. As long as it's totally submerged, you don't need to worry. And in case it needs a little bit more, you can add a little bit stock, or like I've completely finished this now, you can always add a little bit water. There's no right or wrong. And I'm going to add the eggs right away. Eggs are hard boiled, so it doesn't matter if they get boiled more. It's just that now I want the same flavors to be infused into the egg. So I've put wine, I've put stock, I've put mustard and a little bit of ghee in the bottom, and this is the time I'm putting a little bit of ghee on the top. Just a small measure. You can do it with a measuring spoon, but this is about 3/4 of a teaspoon. So the flavorings are done. So all I do now is to cover it and let it stew and wait for it to do its magic. Beyond the fire signifies that there's life beyond everything. So beyond the fire actually is a connotation to the fact that food isn't something that you just put on fire and it gets made. Food isn't something that is just to be made to eat. Food is something which goes far beyond that, because it signifies culture. It signifies trade. So much of cash crops have actually guided history and wars. Then if you look at how what ingredients are used across the world as sweeteners would depend upon what is available locally, what is cultivated locally. It's not necessarily sugarcane everywhere. If you think about what is the how people look at recognizing people basis what food they eat or what they cannot eat. The food is something which goes into culture, which goes into folklore, which goes into history, even personalities of people, and it's something that signifies a way of living. And finally, there's so many stories and trivia which can get attached to food, which we keep on sharing. And I think that's what makes the brand far bigger than just a food making channel. So let's see where it is now. Well, it looks like it's done. We use a Spanish technique here, which gives it a little bit of a burnt garlic flavor, which goes a long way in making the dish that much more flavorful. So let us see if we plate it up, how does it look? How you would like it to look at the very end. So well, to make sure that we do not forget our second hero, which is the mustard egg. And what I normally do is to garnish it with a few raw almonds at the top to provide a bit of a color differential, some black raisins again, and this is optional if you want to do it, which is birista, fried onion, which you can make yourself if you really want to deep fry a lot of it, or you can buy off the shelf, it is available. Now after this is done, some people prefer putting a bit of greens on top like coriander. I don't. And for tonight we have the brilliant Yakhni Pulao. Come taste with me and we go beyond the fire. Thank you very much.